George Washington is looked at as one of the great leaders in American history, if not the greatest leader in American history. It is a little known fact, or a lesser known fact, that he truly struggled in his first leadership role as a British general during the French and Indian War. Today I want to look at what we can learn from his leadership experiences in this war and how he recovered from a potentially career devastating embarrassment and defeat during the French and Indian War. First, some background information on the French and Indian War. This is a conflict that is in the Americas and also part of a larger conflict called the 7 Years' War all over the world, where the French and British fought for land and resources. And they did this in America as well. It started in the Ohio River Valley, around the area that would become Pittsburgh today, and it spread up into the southern areas of Canada as well. But this is a competition and a war between the French, the British, and also Native American groups that joined both sides. George Washington grew up as a promising young land surveyor. He wanted more fame, more success. He joined the British military and quickly was promoted, and he found himself, somewhat surprisingly, in charge of troops in an expedition in the back country of America at the time, in the area that would be considered Pennsylvania now, where the Ohio River begins. In his first skirmish, he did okay, but at the second skirmish at Fort Necessity, his troops were wiped out, and his leadership was in question. It was a huge embarrassment and a defeat and a failure that many people would not recover from. But not George Washington. He was determined. He had a vision and goal for himself to be extremely successful. He had failed miserably, but he learned from that failure. He becomes great by sticking with it and by staying the course. So although he was a complete and utter failure at Fort Necessity, we know that George Washington will come back 20 years later and be a tremendous leader and be the general that makes all the difference in the American Revolution when he is fighting for America against his old country, Britain. And then he will go on and be an incredibly successful president, perhaps one of the 5 greatest presidents we ever had. What can we learn from this? Well, one thing that George Washington did is he persistently pursued his dreams and goals. He did not let anything get in his way. He did not let the failure at Fort Necessity get in his way. And he continued to learn. He learned from failure. Mistakes can be a huge benefit to us. I want to focus on this idea of mistakes. Mistakes can be truly a great thing in our life. We need to embrace mistakes. If we're truly not doing something great if we're not making mistakes along the way. However, if we're going to make mistakes and we're going to embrace mistakes, we have to realize that we have to learn from these mistakes. George Washington learned from the mistakes he made in both leadership and military tactics at Fort Necessity. So mistakes can be good as long as you recognize what they are, you analyze what they are, and then you learn from them and put in a plan for action and improvement so that the mistakes are not repeated. George Washington does this over and over again in his career. As general, he is constantly improving. As a leader, he is constantly improving. We'll see this throughout the American Revolution. We'll see this throughout this time as president. And the compounding effect of all these decisions, learning from all these mistakes, allows him to get better and better and stronger until he becomes a force that will help push the Americans over the edge in the American Revolution, and a force as president that will set our country up for great success. So embrace your mistakes. Let's all embrace our mistakes. Let's learn and let's stay persistent towards our dreams and goals, and do not give up for what we want to achieve.